All right. Hello, racers of the 2021 Rib Mountain Adventure Challenge. My name is Tim,
And I'm Anna.
and we're the race directors, and we're thrilled that you are all signed up for the sixth annual Rib Mountain Adventure Challenge. We have 500 racers registered, making us the largest adventure race in the United States, and we have racers coming from 14 different states to represent at the race this coming weekend. This is our pre-race meeting. Normally we would do this at the race, but we've moved this to Zoom for ease. Really, that's going to help us this year as well. We might keep this going forward. So what we're going to do is cover the rules of the race, give a general course overview, and talk through some specifics of the event. This should be helpful for both returning racers who have raced lots of adventure races, and especially for brand new racers who have never adventure raced before. Um, as I mentioned, we're going to be the largest adventure race in the United States this year. This race is a fundraiser for scholarships for students at the local UWSP Wausau and UWSP campuses where I teach, as well as for the Wausau Marathon County Parks Foundation to reinvest in our community, build better trails, invest in our parks so we have great access to outdoor recreation for all. So welcome back to racers who have done our race before and racers who've done lots of adventure racing. Looking at the team list, we have tons of teams who we know who have been racing for 20 plus years. We have some former national champions coming to our race, and we're excited to see so many people that have been adventure racing for years and years. And then especially welcome to all the new racers out there. Over 40% of the registrants for the race this year have never done an adventure race before, which we think is awesome. We both started adventure racing in the early 2000s after we saw Eco Challenge on TV in its first iteration back in the late 1990s. And we've been hooked on it ever since. We've both done over 100 adventure races since, 100 adventure races since. And we hope you'll find that this is the beginning of a fun life and community of adventures together. So welcome to all of you that may have seen Eco Challenge on TV last fall and summer, who found out about the sport some other way. We're so glad you're here and welcome to this community.
We want to start out by saying some thank yous, primarily to our volunteers. We have, I think, 38 or 40 volunteers this year, and these people are out here. They've got day jobs, they've got stuff going on, they've taken time out of their lives to come and be here on Friday night, volunteering all through the night. They're going to be out there with you guys, 18-hour racers, all through the night, in the cold, in the wet. We have volunteers out setting the course right now. They'll be doing that through the next couple of days as well. And so they're going to make it a fantastic experience for you. They're going to keep you safe. They'll be there for you, and they're just absolutely amazing. We also want to say thanks to the Wisconsin Adventure Racing race directors. I don't know if you know, but we all have full-time jobs, and we just do this because we love it and we want to share it and we want everyone to have this opportunity. And
this is definitely just a hobby and passion of ours, and not something you make a living doing, but something because we love this sport and we love to share it with all of you.
Yeah, and our volunteers love it too. And so I want to do a shout out to some of the volunteers you might be encountering out on the race course. So Megan Seiler has been with us from the get-go. She's going to be heading up the canoe transition area. All of you will get to meet her. She's also going to have Matt and Carolyn out there, and a brand new family of four, Preston, Amy, and their kids Amelia and Paxton, who were thinking about racing and then decided they wanted to volunteer and see what it was like. So you'll get to meet all of them, and hopefully they'll get to experience some of your race experience too at the canoes. We've got Chris and Mark who are putting together a special challenge for you. They do a special challenge every year, and the 3 and 8 hour racers will get a really cool opportunity to just give back to other people and also make something really cool this year. I'm not going to tell you anything more because it'll be a surprise, but they're on that. So Chris and Mark with a special challenge. And then the 18-hour racers, you're going to get to meet Tim and Peter in the middle of the night somewhere. And then you'll get to meet Amy, Dan, and Carla when you finish a very cold and wet paddle. They will be there boosting your spirits. We're also going to have my parents out there with some of their friends, Keith and Evelyn, who are going to be cooking up hot pancakes and bacon for all the 18-hour racers. And trust me, when you get to their transition area, that's going to be just the best thing ever. So thank you to them. And then at headquarters, we've got all of our core volunteers. So many people are dedicated over the years. And then Tim, who you'll see in the middle of the night, you'll see him later on if you get to a bonus and remote TA.
We also want to do a special shout out to the town of Rib Mountain, who is presenting our race this year, also to the city of Wausau Room Tax, and to Iron Bull, who helps us coordinate this race. Thanks also to Mike Garrison and the U.S. Adventure Racing Association, and to Anthony Latone, the Badger Orienteering Club, the Minnesota Orienteering Club, and Paula Waite of 180 Adventure for providing the CPs and E-Punch finger sticks. We had to actually source from 3 separate clubs because we have so many teams at the race this year. So thank you to all of them for helping coordinate and make this large of a race possible. We are going to, we have now the rules posted on the website that you can check on the race details page. It's right under the race updates. Make sure you read through those rules carefully. They'll also be in your race packet printed, but we wanted to put them online before, and so you have a chance to look through them. The rules are for your safety and for the safety of the crew and the community, and to maintain fairness. Rules can be different from race to race, so make sure you just take a look at what those rules are and pay close attention to those rules, and please do follow those. This is not a closed course, so those of you especially new to adventure racing, that's typically the case. No roads are closed down. There's going to be a few spots where we're going to have signs along roads saying, race in progress. But it's an open course. It's open to the public. If you're on a road with vehicle traffic, there will likely be vehicles on it. There's going to be people on the trails. You can run into lots of people. It's a nice holiday weekend. So be sure to share the trails, roadways, water. Be courteous to others. Follow the rules of the road. Stop at stop signs. Look both ways. There are times in all 3 races where you are going to be on trails that could be used by horses. So this is important for everyone. Horse etiquette is if you see a horse that you're coming towards or from behind, make verbal contact with the rider of the horse. Talk to that rider in a calm voice to not spook the horse, and ask the rider what they'd like you to do. They may ask you just to step aside on the side of the trail as they pass. They may say, it's just fine, just keep talking to me as you go by, but follow the etiquette around horses to follow what the rider tells you to do. It is turkey hunting season. There's not a lot of, I've never actually seen a turkey hunter out at 9 Mile in some of the areas we are, but it is that season, so you may want to consider wearing bright colors to make yourself visible. That also can be really helpful when you're biking on the roads. And then be very careful at road crossings. We don't have you on any busy roads. We specifically designed the course that way, but you are crossing a couple busy roads, so please be careful. Again, respect other users of the roads and trails. If you're on a paved road, make sure you ride single file. If there's a pedestrian trail available on the side of a road, we encourage you and ask that you do use that for safety. We do ask all racers to have a red rear flashing light on their bike. Even during daylight hours, that can be helpful to have on. There's a lot of racers, so that means that there's a lot of gear. So we do encourage you to label your gear with either your team number, your team name. That also helps us, so if we find that gear, we can easily identify what team it goes to. There would be spots in the race where you're going to drop your bike. We're going to have designated areas where you can drop your bike. Please be sure to keep it within those designated areas. They'll be marked off by cones. It'll be like when you get to the paddle, and later in the race there's going to be a bike drop that's also being marked on your main map. Make sure you put your gear in that right area so we don't cause too much congestion. Also, when you get to the canoes, make sure to follow the volunteers' instructions and place the canoes where they need to go, and follow those volunteer instructions when you come back from a canoe section. One rule I do want to point out, you need to stick together as a team. So our rule for this race, and it's maybe as closer, or it's closer than some races, is that teams need to remain within 10 meters, or it's about 30 feet of one another. That's a pretty close distance. So certainly don't send a runner up to the top of a hill or way up ahead to go punch a checkpoint while the others wait for that person to come back. You need to maintain 30-foot spacing at maximum between you and your other teammates. If you notice a team not following that rule, just give them a gentle reminder, be friendly. We're all out there to have fun, but we also want this to be fair. So it's nice to say, hey, don't forget the 30-foot rule, just in a nice way. If someone's doing this flagrantly, make a note of that team number and just make us aware of that. I said 10 meters and 30 feet, and when you're on the bike, we allow up to 30 meters. That's in the rules. 30 meters is about 90, 100 feet. And if you have 2 canoes, if you're a 4-person team in 2 canoes, we allow 30 meters. Speaking of that, just as a reminder, 3-person teams all need to be in one boat, and then 4-person teams would be in 2 boats. Of course, 2-person in one boat, and soloist in kayaks. When you get to the canoe transition, there will be some kayak paddles there. With the kayaks, those are specifically reserved for those kayakers. All the provided paddles will be canoe paddles for the canoers and the teams of more than one person. There will be private property around where you're racing. When I looked at the maps, I don't think there's any obvious place where you would be tempted to cut through private property to save time or distance. But as you're planning your route, if you look at a questionable area and like on the USGS map, there's a bunch of like black dots that look like they might be houses or a neighborhood. Maybe just ask with us before you plan on taking that route. It probably means you would be going through private property if that was the case. But most of the areas in the race, as we said, are large swaths of land that we have permits for.
When you get your race instructions, there are going to be specific sections of the race. So there's going to be trek sections, specifically bike sections, paddle sections, and the checkpoints within that section have to be obtained by the mode of travel specified for that section. So like paddle points, you have to get them by boat. You can't get out of your canoe and run to them and then go back. And most of the paddle points, you're going to be able to paddle right up to them and punch from the boat. Some of them you might have to take a step or two out of the boat to punch, but we want you punching those by boat. Trek points, you can't get with your bike. You have to leave your bike in the transition area and go out and get those trek points on foot. The only exception to this is going to be in some points during the bike section, specifically for the 18-hour racers more. But there's going to be areas that's just not bikeable. You're going to have your bikes with you, but you might want to just drop them and run in a short distance and get the CP on foot, and then go back to your bike, and that's totally okay.
And for all 3 races, that'll be the case for at least a couple points, that you're going to want to drop your bike and run to a point and then just run back to your bike. Totally fine. We have a couple COVID updates. Since we started advertising the race, the CDC has changed some of its recommendations, which we're glad to see. It means we're going in a better direction, we think. So fully vaccinated individuals are safe to be outdoors without a mask and indoors, but there really isn't anywhere that you'll be indoors for this race. The chalet is off limits to racers at 9 Mile. It's for volunteer use only, so you'll see a building there that's only for volunteers, so please don't go in there as a racer. The CDC still recommends for large gatherings that unvaccinated people are recommended to wear a mask. And this is considered a large gathering. So if you are unvaccinated yet, please do plan to wear a mask to check in and at post-race activities. We thank you for that. Help keep our volunteers safe and healthy. And if you are feeling sick or have COVID symptoms, we do ask that you please stay home and notify us, and we'll figure that out. Or if you've been exposed, please do stay home and notify us of that. All right, so just real quick, how the rankings for this race and most adventure races work is teams will be ranked by how many checkpoints they get, followed by how fast they finish the course. So I think for all 3 courses, it's going to be clearable. The 18-hour race will be close. I think for sure the 8-hour and the 3-hour races are very clearable, which means that the winning team will be the team that clears the course in the fastest time. So if multiple teams clear the course and get every checkpoint, then the team that does it the fastest is the winner. If no one clears the course, the winner is the team with the most amount of checkpoints, followed by the time. Your time is always the secondary factor after the number of checkpoints you have as the tiebreaker for an even amount of checkpoints. So just because you finished fastest, if you skip 5 checkpoints, any team that skipped 4 or less checkpoints is going to finish ahead of you in that scenario. The way to be officially ranked on the course for this race, for all 3 races, is just to complete 1 checkpoint from every section of the race. We don't necessarily recommend doing that. You'll have a very short day and it might be not the full experience you could get, but you just need to get 1 paddle point, 1 trek point, and 1 bike point, and in the 8-hour and 3-hour courses, the special challenge to be an official finisher and be a ranked team on the course. Beyond that, the number of checkpoints you get is optional. We expect that, as I said, a lot of teams will clear the 3-hour and 8-hour course, but as is always the case, don't expect that every team will clear the course. And if you're new to the sport in particular, plan to skip some checkpoints along the way. It might be strategic to do so. The 3-hour race actually has a 4-hour cutoff. I'll remind everyone that was in one of our race updates, and you'll see that in the rules. But we want to make sure that you don't get yourself stuck out at a remote area and realize you don't have enough time to get back. So you kind of have to keep an eye on the clock, make sure you give yourself enough time, and know that, oh, that checkpoint looks a little far away in the paddle. Maybe we're going to skip that and just get this one checkpoint in the paddle so we give ourselves more time to get the trek points at the end. That might be one strategy you use. Or you could say, well, let's just go for it, and then there's a lot of checkpoints at the end. We can kind of decide that later and figure that out then. But have a strategy in place, and don't, if you're new to this, don't necessarily go in with the expectation you're going to get every single checkpoint, because it will be a little bit of a stretch for many of you.
And don't feel like a failure if you don't get all the checkpoints either. The reason why we do this is so you get a sampling of all the different disciplines, and also so you can kind of choose how you want to have your adventure and how you want to spend your day with your team. If you're feeling really great on foot, spend more time on the trek points, or paddle, and vice versa. So that's why we do it that way.
I think it was years before we ever cleared a course. Years of adventure racing. Yeah. So it's just kind of part of the sport. Gear drops?
Yes. So for the 8 and 18-hour races, there are gear drops that you need to do before you check in. So for the 18-hour racers, you're going to need to do a bike drop, and we'll send you the specific location in an email before Friday.
Tomorrow.
I guess.
We'll send it tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'll send it Thursday, depending when you watch this. We'll send that Thursday.
So you'll get the location, and it opens up at 8 o'clock, I think, on Friday night. We'll have someone stationed there to watch your bike gear, but you want to drop all your bike gear off there, because you're going to finish from another section and then leave on your bikes from that section, from a remote transition area. So everything you drop there, just remember you have to take it with you when you leave on bike. You can't leave anything there. Also, so for the 8 and 18-hour racers both, if you have personal paddle gear, you're going to need to drop that off at a remote location. And this is so you don't have to carry your paddle gear with you from the race start. You're going to drop it off at a spot that you're going to go to and pick it up and then paddle with it. So everything you leave there, you want to be able to take on the paddle with you. All of your personal paddle gear, and it's okay if you don't have personal paddle gear. If you don't have your own personal life jacket and paddle, we have all of that for you. We have a canoe paddle for every racer and life jacket. So if you've got that, you don't need to do these gear drops. It'll be there at the paddle when you get there. But if you do have your own personal paddle gear, make sure it's labeled and make sure it's all bundled together, whether it's tied together or in a big garbage bag or some way that you secure it together and labeled. So that way, when race staff transport it back to the headquarters for you, it's easy for us to do that and we can identify that.
And 3-hour racers, just to reiterate, you are required to use the paddling gear that we provide to you. You're not allowed to bring any of your own personal paddle equipment.
Parking, there's a big parking area at headquarters, but still with so many racers, if you can safely carpool together, please carpool. And when you do park, try to park as close together as possible just so we can fit everybody in. When you arrive for your check-in window, this is how it's going to work. So every team has been assigned or chosen a designated start time window of a half an hour period. So the first time that you can come to check in, so you're going to stage your bike, stage your paddles if you need to do that beforehand, then you're going to show up to check in 1 hour before your assigned start time window. So don't come before then, and this is how we spread everybody out. So come to check in 1 hour before. You're going to go and you're going to have a goodie bag that's going to be set out for you underneath a large tent that's going to look like this, a clear bag with your team bib numbers. There we go, right there. You're going to have one team bib number per racer on your team and 4 safety pins for each racer to secure their bib to their pack to be visible, or a shirt to be visible at all times. So you're going to pick this up, and you're also going to pick up a packet of your maps and your race instructions, and it will look like this. So you need these 2 things. Once you get these 2 things, you need to go and get your team photo taken. We're going to have a volunteer taking a team photo behind a nice backdrop with our logo on it. We're going to post these to social media. So what is in your goodie bag? So you're going to have your racer numbers, all of your race t-shirts should be there in there, so check your sizes. If you happen to have the wrong size, let volunteers know and we'll get that fixed for you. Any swag that you purchased beforehand is going to be in here too. So make sure that everything that you bought online beforehand is in there. And you're also going to have a Silent Sports magazine. some 20% off coupons from Red Eye, an amazing restaurant in town, and they're also providing they're a microbrewery. They're providing our beer for the post-race meal. You're gonna have an Iron Bowl series flyer as well. Zanfell coupons, little chocolate cow pies that have been donated for each racer, and most importantly, the Wisconsin Series flyer.
You set it up somewhere already?
That, Tim?
I can grab another one.
We had it. We were just looking at it beforehand. So make sure you have all of that in your racer bag. And then in your packet, make sure you have your race instructions. As Tim is finding the Wisconsin Series flyer. Oh, there it is. It's mixed in with the Silent Sports. Let's go. Yeah, why don't you go over that?
So, yes, we're thrilled to be part of the growing Wisconsin Adventure Racing Series. Just some shout outs to races coming up soon after ours. On June 12th, in just a couple weeks, there's the Code Blue Challenge, which is a 4 and 10 hour race. We've got race directors Jeff Everson and Casey that are racing this race. So thanks to those guys for putting on that awesome race, as well as Mike. On June 26th, Paula Waite of 180 Adventure is putting on the Stubborn Mule. That's up on Lake Superior is what it looks like, in Washburn, Wisconsin. It's a 5-hour, 12-hour, and our favorite 30-hour race, the longest race in the Wisconsin Adventure Race Series, on June 26th. By the way, the Code Blue Challenge is going to be in the Madison area, sponsored by Trek, which is awesome. On July 10th, the Minnesota Orienteering Club, Kendra Stritch, who's racing in the 18-hour race this weekend, is the race director for the Minnesota Orienteering Club's Adventuro, which is actually going to be, the location has changed, actually going to be in the Chippewa Valley region, like Eau Claire, Chippewa area of Wisconsin. It's a 4-hour and 8-hour race. We've got John Harris is a Minnesota friend of ours putting on a brand new race. It's a 4-hour and 8-hour race called the Pocket Gopher Challenge. That's on July 24th in Nerstrand, Minnesota. Then we've got Conquer the Kish in Rockford, Illinois, 4-hour and 10-hour. The guys from Eyes of the World Racing who are going to be racing at this race. Mike Lascola, Jim Paddock, and others from those teams are putting on that race on August 10th in Rockford. Then we're thrilled that for the first time ever, the U.S. Adventure Racing Association's National Championship race will be held in Wisconsin. Paula Waite of 180 Adventure is going to be the race director for that event. It's an awesome, the National Championship is an awesome event. It's a 30-hour race that you qualify for. Just by doing our race this weekend, we'll give you points towards qualifying for that event. And I think if you do about our race is going to be worth a lot of points because there's so many teams in it. If you maybe another 1 or 2 races, maybe 2 or 3 total, you should gather enough points to qualify for that event if you're interested in competing in the National Championship. There will also be some additional open spots for teams that did not qualify that will open up at a certain date later this summer. That race is going to be in the Cable, Wisconsin area on September 10th. So it's a 30-hour race again, the National Championship of Adventure Racing here in Wisconsin on September 10th. And then a couple more races, one on October 16th put on by Andy in the Kettle Moraine, and another by our friends who are racing the MAFF, the Milwaukee Area Fall Frenzy, down in Delafield on November 6th. One last thing about the Wisconsin Adventure Race Series, if you have competed in 3 races, and this is your 3rd race in the series, make sure that after the race you stick around for the award ceremony because you'll be receiving your Adventure Junkie Award that we give out to every racer that competes in at least 3 races with a sweet new, I should have brought one for the meeting, I didn't, a sweet new buff that we have this year, as well as an award certificate. All right, so let's quick go over the race packet. So I don't want to like show you the maps because that would not be fair. So what you're gonna get, did we pull the instructions out of here already? Oh no, they're in here. So you can see this, I guess. You'll get an instruction packet, and that instruction packet will start with the rules on the first page here. Then it will have emergency procedures, course instructions, and then you'll get into the actual course.
And the race rules we're going to send out beforehand so you can
They're posted online
read
now.
them through. They're posted online now, so read them through very carefully because you don't want to have to be reading through all of that on race morning. So you're going to pick up your clear swag bag, you're going to pick up this map and instruction packet and get your picture taken, and then from there you are planning your course until it's go time. So looking at the maps, planning what you're going to do, going through all the the course instructions.
And when you pick up your packets and race instructions, make sure you pick it up by team number. Each envelope and each pack will be listed by team number, and that's important because the other thing that will be in your map packet is your e-punch stick. Do you want to talk about that, or do you want me to?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay.
Oh yeah, the e-punch. Yep, great.
So
here we go.
We got to go back to this too. So the e-punch stick.
Yes.
This is how you're going to keep track of your. Let me see if we can see that in the camera here. This is how you're going to keep track of the results of your race. These are checkpoint flags, and they'll be hanging in the woods. And this is what you're looking for that's marked on your map. These three-dimensional flags. On each flag is a box, an electronic box. And when you take your e-punch stick and you place that in the box here in the circle, it'll beep and flash. You only need to press it once so you hear one beep. You take it out, and that will record that you were there at the checkpoint on this stick. When you finish the race, you're going to take this to a download table, and then we'll download your results so we can tabulate them.
And we would encourage you to use both. Put this on your wrist, cinch it down, and then you put this on your finger. These are actually very easy to lose, and they're very expensive, and they record your whole race, so do not lose them whatever you do. So use the wrist strap as well.
And we have a mix of those from 3 clubs. They all look a little different, but the idea is you place that in the box to get to punch. Mm-hmm. Let me go back just to maps for a second. So maps that you're going to get are all waterproof. You're going to get a mix of 8.5 by 11 and 11 by 17. The instruction packets are not waterproof, so you might want to bring a map case, a Ziploc bag, something to keep things dry. It's also nice, even with the waterproof maps, just to keep mud and grime and dirt off of them, to put them in some kind of map case bag. For the 3-hour race, you'll read this in your instructions. I just want to mention this now. The 3-hour race, the checkpoints need to be completed in sequential order. So it'll say go to checkpoint 1, then go to checkpoint 2 and 3, all the way till you're through, I think, 25 checkpoints to the finish. You can choose to skip points within that, but when you pick up, you need to keep ascending to the next number you go up to. So you can't go 1, 2, 3, get 8, and then come back to 5. You need to keep going up in numerical order, ascending. For the 8 and 18-hour race, it's a mix of some sections are in order, most sections are in any order. So a full section like a trek you need to do next, but most sections within that, you can get the trek points on that section in any order. The maps are all USGS in a variety of scales, everything from 1 to 25,000, zoomed out a bit, down to 1 to 5,000. So make sure you look at the scales. There are a couple maps where I took something that you could already see on the big map. I just zoomed it in so you could get really good detail in a couple trek sections, so you could see all the topography better. You're not having to squint to read it. So if you're looking at the big map, you're like, oh, it's hard to see all those checkpoints. There's probably a smaller 8.5 by 11 map in that packet that's zoomed in. They're also numbered in the sequential order that you need them. A couple things for the newer racers, just there's a clue for each checkpoint of what kind of a feature it will be on. Some of them are as easy as it's at an intersection, or it's at the side of a creek. But a couple terms you might not know. A reentrant is one that's on there a few times. A reentrant is like a low-lying area, sometimes called a gully. It's what water might flow down off the side of a hill. So there's like, if you think of a hillside, there's these little lower areas that the water gathers in and pools and forms like a little temporary little running stream. That's what a reentrant is. It's a low area on a hillside. Spur is another feature that's on there a few times. A spur is the opposite of that. Spur is what separate reentrants. So the higher areas on a downward sloping hillside. Sometimes you might think of it like a ridge, like the top ridge. So it's not like the hilltop, but it's like what slopes off of that hilltop going downwards. That's a spur. So reentrant and spur, those are two features you're going to see on all the courses. There are some off-limits roads marked on your map. You can cross those roads. You're just not allowed to run or bike on them. So those are marked with black X's on your map. So if you see black X's, you can go through that road, pass over it. Don't travel along that road. And
that's really for safety reasons. Those are the unsafe roads that we've determined that have a lot more traffic and no shoulder. So we really want you to be safe. And we've designed the course in a way that you should not need to use those. You should be able to use less traveled routes.
So Anna already mentioned start window. Make sure you know your start window. We're giving you a half an hour to start. You have to start within that start window. Please don't start late. What you're going to do when you get to the start, you're going to have your e-punch stick on. And there's going to be 2 boxes at the start. There are going to be little metal poles, two of these punches.
Things, yeah.
And one of them will say clear, and it's really important that you hold your e-stick in the clear box first. Because if there's any data on these from like a previous race, it needs to be cleared off. So you're going to actually hold it in there for like 4 or 5, maybe even up to 10 seconds until you hear it beep, and that will confirm it's cleared. That's the only box that you need to really hold it in there for any length of time, is the clear box. Then once it's cleared, then you press your start box when you're ready to go. As soon as you press this finger stick into the e-punch box and it beeps, your time is started. So make sure you note that time, because unlike years where we have a mass start, we don't know what time you started. You can't ask us, what time did I start? We won't. We have no idea. We won't be able to tell you that until you've finished and turned in your e-stick to us. So make sure you note that time, and you know that you either got 4 hours, 8 hours, or 18 hours to get back to the finish line.
Because there's a penalty if you, for 1 minute after that you're late, you're going to lose an entire CP point. 2 minutes after, you lose 2 points. And that's in your rules, but it's, yeah, definitely know your start time and don't be late to the finish line.
Try not to punch a point more than once. So try to look and listen. I don't know if you can see this on the video here, but as well as beeping, it does light up when you punch it. So that's enough. If you come across one that you don't hear the beep, but you see the light, it is working. We hope they all work, but every so often you find one that doesn't beep, but the light will still go off. There's also, at the very end of the race, there's a punch at the finish line. And we're going to have a big Iron Bull arc banner at the finish with a stake and a flag on it, or actually not a flag, but a punch on it. Make sure you punch the finish line box. That will stop your time at the end. And then as soon as you're done at that finish line, head over, get your medal. You want to show them the medals?
Yes, we have finisher medals for everybody this year with this beautiful bling. Oh, there's the bling glitter going on. They're super cool.
They're pretty sweet. They match the new shirts for this year.
Everybody get your finisher medal for sure.
And then once you get that finish medal, head over to the results table to turn in that e-punch stick again. It's really important we get that back.
Yes, don't take it home. Yep.
Watch your time. Yeah, for every I think, did you say this? For every minute you're late, you lose a checkpoint. So make sure you're back to the finish line on time. At headquarters, there are porta potties. There's a pit toilet area on the southwest side of the parking lot. There's also a spigot that's connected to an outbuilding that has potable water outside. So you can get water there. We do encourage you, though, it's going to be easier to come with your water bladder or water bottles all set.
All right, weather for this weekend. It is going to be cold on Friday night. The forecast says it's going to get down to 36 degrees. Sunrise is at 5:15 a.m. Sunset is at 8:35. Saturday is going to be beautiful racing weather, high of 67 and sunny, breezy. It should be great. 18-hour racers specifically know that the course is going to be wet and you're going to be cold and it's going to be dark at night. Be prepared to be cold and wet. So bring...
Dark at night?
Well, I know.
We check the forecast.
Yes. So your feet are going to get wet. Your bikes are going to get wet. Just remember, keep moving. Keep moving. If it's cold, just, keep going. You'll stay warm that way. When we were out there, it was really buggy. Tons of mosquitoes, tons of ticks. With the cold weather, I don't know what the bugs might not be so bad.
When you're wet and cold and miserable, just think to yourself, well, at least the bugs aren't bad.
There you go.
So, there's potential for hypothermia. We don't have on the gear list, on the mandatory gear list, we didn't publish and we didn't feel like we wanted to add it a few days before when that forecast all of a sudden dropped in temperature. But if you have a waterproof jacket to carry with you, we'd highly recommend that for 18-hour racers as a safety measure. You will be wet in the middle of the night when it's cold. You'll be up to knee-deep wet. So we really do want you to be safe and really highly recommend you bringing a waterproof jacket for 18-hour racers. 8-hour and 3-hour, you're going to be fine during the day. One thing I forgot, I got to go back to something. With the e-punch stick, especially for 3-hour racers, be really careful not to like punch a point and then go back and do it again and again, because they have a limited capacity for the 3-hour race of 30 punches. And there's 25 points on the course. So if you punch something way too many, like a few extra times, you'll run out of punches and then it won't record the last couple. So just be diligent about 1 punch per checkpoint.
In your race instruction packet, there's a page on the back of the rule page with your emergency procedures. Take a look at that. Basically, they say if somebody needs help on the course, go ahead and stop and help them.
And we'll give you a time credit for
keep
that.
track of your time. We'll give you a time credit if you got to help somebody out. That's not an issue. Fire department and EMS have been notified of our events, so they'll be on call. But in case there's a life-threatening emergency, but just know that unlike other races, you need to be self-sufficient. We're not going to send, as you've seen on TV, we're not going to send in a helicopter to airlift you in a net out from the course and transport you back to headquarters. So just, if something happens, you need to be able to take care of yourself and get back to headquarters on your, by your own power. So obviously, if there's an emergency, call 911 and follow your emergency procedures. If you do need to leave the course, or if there is an emergency, please notify us too. Our phone numbers are on the bottom of the first page to let us know if you have to drop out of the race or if there's an injury. Yeah, anything else for that?
That's good.
We're good, yeah.
All right, so mandatory gear lists for all 3 races are posted online on the website. Make sure you have all that mandatory gear with you. Be prepared for the possibility that there's a mandatory gear check on the course where a volunteer will say to transition area, show me your, and then they'll pick something from the mandatory gear list. You need to be able to show that to them. There's a checkpoint penalty if you don't have each item either as an individual item or a team item, depending on what it is. We have, because of the new CDC requirements, removed the requirement of a face mask from the mandatory gear list. For the 18-hour race, I mentioned a waterproof rain jacket is highly recommended, as well as just warm clothes. Wool would be a great choice for a top, just to keep you warm through that night. I think we maybe alluded to this, but we'll just tell you now, 18-hour racers, you will be paddling at night. So as well as being prepared for the cold, because paddles splash on each other. We've certainly splashed each other with paddles accidentally, or maybe purposefully at times. I don't know. So you're gonna get wet, possibly in the paddle, and certainly afterwards. So also be prepared with glow sticks, 18-hour racers. That is on your mandatory gear list. You'll need a glow stick for the front and the back of the boat, as well as 1 per PFD. For everyone, rear flashing lights on bikes is an important one. 18-hour races, you're going to make sure to have those on, and if it does get cloudy or stormy, everyone else needs to make sure they have those on as well. A real quick note about GPS watches. In the spirit of adventure racing, you shouldn't take your phone out at any time unless it's an emergency. And in the same, there's so many watches now. We both have them that track our, stuff on Strava and everything, but we never wear them on our wrists during a race because it's kind of it is cheating to be able to look at your watch and see, even if it doesn't have a map screen on it, if it has a distance traveled or a pace, that speed that you're running, that is not allowed if it communicates with the satellite. But what we will allow everyone to do is take that GPS watch and start it before your race starts, put it in your backpack, and just swear not to take it out. Just leave it running. If you want to track it for Strava or just for your own stats of how far you travel to look at afterwards, that's okay. Just make sure you keep it in your backpack. Don't take it out to look at it. Keep it in there.
And that said, make sure you have somebody on your team that has a dumb watch so you know when your start time was and when you need to finish.
Yeah, that's a good point, yes. Cell coverage for the 8-hour and the 3-hour courses is pretty good. There's spots in the 18-hour race where we did not get cell service, so be aware of that. If you need to get cell service, keep moving, follow the emergency procedures in that case.
And sometimes it's nice to go to the top of a hill. You might get better cell reception there.
All right, a few last things. Every team, when you get into a transition area, and it's your time to transition, check in with the volunteer and give them your team number only. They're not going to have your team names. They're not going to write down your team names. You need to know your team number. Those are published online. When you're paddling, PFDs, personal flotation devices, must be worn at all times. If you have a 3-person team, do not sit on that center thwart. That's meant for putting the boat on your shoulders. If you sit on it, it could break the boat. It would also probably tip you over because you're going to be way too high for center of gravity. And then when you take the boats out of the water, please do not drag them. They're rental boats. We don't want to have to pay any fees if boats are damaged. So make sure you pick them up and place them where the volunteer asks you to. When you finish I said that. For the 8 and the 18-hour race, secure your team's gear together, I think as Anna mentioned earlier, when you're finished that, and place it where the volunteer directs you to. Let's see, for the 18-hour race.
So if you have personal paddle gear, you would not need to carry it during the race. You'll only need it for when you're paddling. And
for 18-hour races, that does include the portage wheels that we've notified you about possibly being able to use. You don't need them for the 8-hour or the 3-hour or the 8-hour. let's see, we talked about that. On the 8-hour and 18-hour courses, there are water and porta potties at some of the remote TAs on the course. I mean, otherwise there's thousands of acres of land, and there's lots of toilets just 10 feet off the trail. So you can use that as well if you're out there in the middle of a section. For the special challenge for the 3-hour and the 8-hour race, there will be an e-punch at that location, but what the volunteers will have you do is complete the special challenge, and then they'll direct you to where you can where you can punch at the CP flag with your e-punch. You're gonna have to complete the special challenge first. 18-hour racers, just to, I think we said this earlier, in the 18-hour race, there's what we're calling a bonus section. It is worth checkpoints, but we don't think many teams, maybe if any, will get to it. I think, I would guess if I had to, that three teams will get to that bonus section. It's going to add on a decent bit of time. It's going to be a big out and back with a trek and then back to race headquarters. So consider skipping that and just finishing with the last 2 sections of the course. Look at your time before you make that decision. Transition areas for the 3-hour race, there's never a checkpoint punch or a checkpoint flag like this at the transition area. It's just a location that indicates that this is where you're going to change from one discipline to another. At a couple of the transition areas for the 8-hour and the 18-hour race, there's a checkpoint flag you punch. Just punch it once when you get there the first time. When you return back to that transition area later, you do not need to punch it again. In fact, please don't. If a CP, if you are sure you're in the right spot, and you think the CP is missing or maybe it's been stolen, we've been lucky it's never happened to us. We're careful we've started placing some points today, but we put them in really remote spots that I don't think anyone's been in a long time, if ever.
And anything that's going to be really public, we're going to have a secured with a lock. So hopefully there won't be any checkpoints missing.
So we've never had it happen, but we've seen it happen in plenty of races over the years. So if you come across a spot and you're sure it's there, don't spend too much time if you're positive it's that you were there. If we find that we've either misplaced the point, which has never happened either, but just in case, or that it's been stolen, it's gone missing, we will take that point off of the course. No one will get credit for it if it wasn't there. Or I guess we should say everyone would get credit for it, but no one will be penalized for not getting it if it's in the wrong spot or if it's gone missing or stolen.
One of our favorite things about the race is that we have amazing professional photographers out on the course photographing all of you in the throes of joy and agony and all the amazing things that are part of the race. And this year, Anne and Lee, who are professional photographers and good friends of ours, they're going to be there overnight too, capturing you out on the course. So when you see them, definitely say hello and ham it up for the camera, or whatever you want to do. But they'll be out there, and we'll also have a drone videographer out on the course as well. Super exciting. For your post-race meal, food will be happening at headquarters starting from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. And we have a food truck this year, the Urban Street Bistro, and they're going to be providing a few different options for you of vegetarian and non-vegetarian Mediterranean dishes, and the food is included with your race entry, so all you have to do is show your race bib to get your meal. And then of course we'll have beer provided by Red Eye again, and a bunch of other snacks and soda and water and veggies and things for you to enjoy. If you have spectators or family members with you, they're welcome to purchase a meal from the Urban Street Bistro.
And this year with COVID, we did not get a giant tent with hundreds of tables and chairs all packed into a very small space. So you might want to consider bringing a camping chair to sit out in. Looks like it'll be a beautiful day just to hang out and drink a beer, have a soda, eat after the race. But there's certainly not going to be 500 chairs out there for all of you. So consider bringing like a camping chair or something to sit in after the race. Also for pre-race, for mapping, the tables, like if you've done a race in years past, we've provided like 100 tables. There's not going to be those tables. So you're going to want to plan to like map in your car somewhere, or bring a table for yourself or something and keep it in the parking lot next to your car for mapping.
Mm-hmm. For awards, I've made these first, second, and third place overall awards again for the 18, 8, and 3 hour, plus there's a family division as well.
And it's been wood burning up a storm.
And it's still not done yet. Gotta finish those.
Hopefully she finishes before you finish.
Yes. We'll have those, of course. We've got lots of prizes. And also we have our cleanup award that we do every year. So for each race, if you collect trash while you're out on the course, at every transition area, we'll have a trash bag, and if you count up the number of pieces of trash you've collected, you can dump it in that bag at the transition area, and the volunteer at the transition area will record the number of pieces of trash you picked up, and at the end we'll add up, and the team that has collected the most pieces of trash will get a special plaque by me and a special prize. That's something we love doing just to give back to the parks that we use. Very cool. And then we'll do a spirit award too. So if volunteers notice that there's a particular team that really exemplifies spirit, we'll make note of that and give an extra award for that as well. Feedback at the
Spectator.
Oh, thank you. Spectator information. I have made spectator instructions for all 3 races. So if you have family members that are coming, I'll have a schedule of what's happening, maps of where you're going to be, best viewing places, and all of that. So come and if you have family or friends coming, have them come and see me at race check-in on race morning, and I'll get you those documents as well. Publish results. The ePunch makes tallying results a lot easier. We'll have preliminary results ready for you hopefully by 6:30, so we can do the awards then, and then we can wrap it up and I'll head home. We'll get final results to you within the next 1 to 2 days, and we'll post those online, and that way you can go and compare all your splits and geek out about everything we love to geek out about in adventure racing, comparing our times with other teams. So hopefully we'll have those out. And Ann and Lee are always great about getting the professional photos out for you pretty quickly in that week following the race. So if you want to go and purchase photos of you, they always take just amazing pictures. So definitely check that out and support them by maybe purchasing a photo of you or your family. That really helps them out a lot. Feedback. We will send out a survey after the race. We love to hear your feedback, what you liked, what you want to see back again. Suggestions we've received in the past that we've made changes for. We had a request for a women's division specifically for racing, so we've added a specific women's division. And also this year again, we're going to be doing a women's scholarship for attending the national championship. So the top women's team in both the 18-hour and the 8-hour, we're going to do a $300 scholarship towards the national championship if your team decides to compete in the national championship, if you qualify and you want to go. And also there's a really cool group called the Women of AR on Facebook that I'm a mentor for, I'm a part of. It's a really amazing group that just helps share and learn a lot about AR for those women who are getting into it and want to really compete or learn more. And they're also matching that donation, so an additional $300 for the top women's teams who want to compete in nationals. The other feedback we've gotten is you wanted to buy the special mugs that we had for the top teams. So this year we've bought extra mugs. These are additions for this year. We've got the short and the tall, so these are also available for purchase.
Some of you pre-purchased them. We'll have them in your bags when you check in.
Yes.
So be careful if you know you picked up a mug, to be careful when you pick up your bag.
They're in your swag bag. If they're not, let us know if you pre-purchased, but they should be in everybody's bags.
So yeah, we'll have mugs, we'll have Rib Mountain Adventure Challenge visors, and Iron Bull merchandise for sale after. Let me go through quickly our sponsors. We mentioned some earlier. In terms of making scholarship donations and investing in our parks, our sponsors help us hugely to make that happen. The list of full sponsors is sent out in your race update. I already mentioned Town of Rib Mountain, City of Wausau Room Tax, Travel Wisconsin. Rib Mountain Cycles is an awesome bike shop in Wausau. Red Eye Brewing Company, Gear Junkie, which is a great online resource for gear. And founder the founder's an adventure racer, Steven, who founded that company. Nicolet National Bank here in central Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Adventure Racing Series, USARA. We're going to be using trails that are built and maintained by the Central Wisconsin Off-Road Cycling Coalition, CWAC, here in central Wisconsin. Bradley Chiropractic, Edward Jones, Ben Peterson. Triggs, which is going to provide lots of our food. First Basis Consulting for sponsoring the Wisconsin Adventure Racing Series. Gary Barden Designs does our awesome logo design every year. Power Grips, which we use on our pedals for adventure racing so we can hop on and off our bikes without having to change bike shoes back and forth. Light in Motion Bike Lights, who sponsors our team and is sponsoring this race with discounts. Out There Packs, who we're going to be raffling off a Out There pack or two. And there's going to be some prize tables from Out There on there, which makes awesome adventure racing packs, as well as Zanfell. So if you get some poison ivy out on the course, we'll have some Zanfell up on the prize table for you. There will be a prize table when we do awards within the divisions. You'll get to pick a prize from the prize table. Thank you as well to Iron Bull. Iron Bull is an organization we've both been a part of. Executive Director Andrea Larson is an amazing athlete and adventure racer herself. She's done a ton of work to help organize and has communicated individually with a lot of you with questions about this race. It's an awesome new nonprofit organization in the Wausau, Central Wisconsin area that just wants to promote the outdoors, promote outdoor sports, and promote all the great access to the outdoors we have here in Wausau. So check out Iron Bull. There's a great series of other events, including gravel grinders, ultra trail runs, and we've got lots more great stuff coming up this year. So check out Iron Bull. And lastly, this is the end of our session, so if you have questions, we are going to have, I'll be online tomorrow night, and I'll send out a Zoom link. You'll have it when you are viewing this, for a live Q&A session over